Welcome to Linguist Rising. So, let me ask you something. Have you ever been in that situation where you've absolutely aced a grammar test, but then you try to do something simple, like order a coffee in that language, and you just freeze? Yeah, you're definitely not alone. Today, we're going to talk about a framework that completely flips traditional language learning on its head. It shifts the focus away from just memorizing rules and puts it on what really matters: real, meaningful communication.
So here's our game plan for today. We're going to start by digging into that common learning problem we just talked about. Then I'll introduce you to the discourse perspective as the solution. From there, we'll explore what it really means to be a strategic learner, see how this changes the way we think about the 4 core language skills, and look at a super powerful technique called scaffolding. And then we'll wrap it all up with the end goal, becoming a confident, independent communicator.
All right, so first things first, let's really dive into this problem because it's a scenario that I think is going to feel all too familiar to a lot of you.
Right? It's this classic paradox of language learning. You can fill in all the blanks on a worksheet, you can conjugate verbs in your sleep, but the second you're in a real-life situation, face-to-face with a native speaker, your mind just goes totally blank. So what is going on here? Why does that happen?
Well, it all comes down to this gap. This disconnect between what you know in the classroom and what you need to do out in the real world. It's a huge source of frustration because it teaches us a really important lesson. Knowing about a language just isn't the same as knowing how to use it. So how do we build a bridge across that gap?
Well, the answer is to shift our entire perspective. Seriously, we need to stop thinking about language as just a big pile of rules we have to memorize. Instead, we need to start seeing it for what it is, a tool for creating meaning and connecting with people. And this is the heart of what's called the discourse perspective.
So to put it simply, this whole approach says that the main event in language learning should be, well, actual communication. Every single activity, every lesson should be geared towards helping you better understand or produce meaningful discourse. And that could be anything: a casual conversation, a professional email, even just understanding a news article.
And this quote from our source material really just nails it. The focus is always on meaning and real communication. Now, this doesn't mean we just throw grammar out the window. Not at all. It just means that we learn grammar in the service of communication. We learn it so we can say what we mean more clearly.
Okay, so adopting this new perspective means we as learners have to change our mindset a little bit too. It's not just about feeling motivated. It's about becoming what's called a strategic language learner. And that all starts with a really powerful idea called investment.
So what's the difference here? Well, think about it. Motivation is a feeling, right? And feelings, as we all know, can change from one day to the next. But investment, and this idea comes from the brilliant linguist Bonnie Norton, investment is an action. It's when you consciously invest your time, your energy, even a piece of your identity into learning. Because you expect a real return on that investment. Maybe that's a better job, or a deeper connection to a new culture, or just a stronger sense of who you are. Investment puts you in the driver's seat.
And when you're invested, that's what turns you into a strategic user. You're not just sitting back and waiting for a teacher to tell you what to do. Nope. You are actively engaged. You plan your own learning journey. You go out and look for opportunities to interact. You develop an incredible personal autonomy. You become a strategic listener, a strategic reader, a strategic speaker, and a strategic writer.
Okay, so what does this strategic approach actually look like when it comes to the 4 core skills: listening, reading, speaking, and writing? Well, a discourse perspective makes us see them in a whole new light, not as separate subjects to study, but as interconnected tools we use to communicate.
First things first, we have got to throw out this old idea that listening and reading are passive skills. Nothing could be further from the truth. When you're listening to someone or reading a text, your brain is on fire. It's working incredibly hard, actively building meaning from the clues it's getting. It is a super dynamic process. And your brain does this by using 2 types of processing at the exact same time. On one hand, you've got top-down processing. That's when you use your background knowledge and the context to kind of predict what's coming. Like if you open a restaurant menu, you already have an expectation you're going to see a list of foods, right? That's top-down. At the same time, you're using bottom-up processing. That's decoding the individual sounds, letters, and words on the page. A really skilled language user just blends these 2 together seamlessly.
And check this out. This is basically the playbook for a strategic learner. Notice how intentional and active this whole process is. You don't just dive in and start reading. No, you start by setting a clear goal. Then you prep your brain by asking, okay, what do I already know about this topic? Then as you're reading or listening, you're actively using both of those strategies. And finally, you step back, evaluate what you learned, and think about how you can use it. It's a whole system. Now, on the flip side, you've got the production skills. That's speaking and writing. And here, it's all about taking ownership of the message you're putting out into the world. Your job as the creator is to make something that is cohesive, meaning all the parts stick together grammatically, and coherent, meaning it actually makes logical sense to the person who's reading or listening to you.
So if all these skills are active and they're all interconnected, how in the world do we actually teach them that way? Well, one of the most powerful techniques out there is something called scaffolding.
The best way to think about scaffolding is like training wheels on a bicycle. It's a temporary support system that helps you do something you couldn't quite do on your own yet. In language learning, this often means we use one skill to provide the support you need to build up another skill. Let me give you a really clear example.
Okay, imagine your goal is to read a pretty dense, complex scientific article about hurricanes. Now that could be really intimidating to just jump into cold, so we start with a scaffold. First, you're going to listen to a simple TV news report about a recent hurricane.
See, this listening task isn't just random. It's strategically designed to pre-teach you. As you listen, you start picking up on essential vocabulary, words like storm surge or wind speed, and you get the basic gist of the main concepts.
So now, when you turn your attention to that difficult scientific article, you're not starting from scratch. That listening activity built you a bridge. You already have the background knowledge and the key vocabulary you need to tackle that more challenging text and actually succeed. The scaffold did its job, and you just leveled up as a reader.
Okay, so let's zoom out and bring this all together. What is the big takeaway here? What's the ultimate point of looking at your own language learning through this discourse perspective?
It's a complete transformation. It's about moving out of the passenger seat, where you're just passively being told rules, and getting behind the wheel. You become an active participant in your own learning, a strategic thinker, and an independent, autonomous learner who can keep getting better long after you've finished a class. So what you gain from this is incredibly practical and empowering. It's not just about learning about the language, it's about learning how to actually use it effectively in the real world. You build the confidence to not just wait for conversations to happen, but to go out and start them. And maybe most importantly, you learn how to learn on your own, which shifts the entire focus from just knowing rules to actually doing things with language.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Based on everything we've talked about today, what is one small strategic step you can take in your language learning this week? Maybe it's setting a specific goal before you watch a movie in your target language. Or maybe it's consciously trying to use one new phrase in a real conversation. Whatever it is, take that first step. Thanks so much for joining me on Linguist Rising.